Welcome back to a new video on this channel, and on this occasion is the MPK Mini Mark III. This is not a review, it's a complete guide about this device. Everything on this guide is in chapters, so if you look at the description or the timeline, you can jump to a section or skip the ones you don't want. If you like this, please like and subscribe, and this channel is supported by viewers only. If you want to buy me a coffee to say thanks and help the channel keep going on, you can. Go to the links in the description. You have links for PayPal, YouTube Thanks, and Patreon. As soon as you get the MPK Mini out of the box, you notice that there's a velocity issue, which is not an issue, is the way it works, is way too sensitive. If I play, normal way, it's like that, but if I want to get more, I really need to, hammer down the keys to get it. You can access the configuration of the device by going to full level. This needs to be off, and then you need to press and hold for about 10 seconds, and it will give you a screen right here with the configurations. So I'm going to go right here. I'm going to press 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10, and it will give you the configuration for the velocity. Now on the screen, what it will give you is the V1, V2, V3, V4, and then the black balance right there at the bottom. And by default, this is the default configuration or default values that you get for this controller. Now what you need to do to change the velocity, how it behaves, you need to change the values. So you need to think of this like when you play a key, the different stages of playing that key, how the velocity works. And this is completely up to you, up to your taste. Now, if you want to make it less sensitive, you will need to go here and to start changing the values. In my case, I'm going to be going almost full velocity, and I'm going to go all the way up. You need to do a lot of scrolling, but if I go up to the 40s, it will let me go up on this one. I'm going to keep going up until I get almost pretty much the same thing. And what I'm doing is just pretty much disabling the velocity. In this case, because I'm talking and I'm just recording something, so it's just useful for me. But again, if you want, this is again about your taste. And this one I'm going to go down, and then this one I'm going to keep going down. Now, once you are ready and you have it set it up, you just need to double check if it's fine. Now, if I play the keys again, I'm not playing really hard. It's very easy for me to get the velocity I want. Still, if I play it very softly, I get that, that low velocity. But this is something that you need to configure yourself. You just need to go to the menu, just change the values, check if it's all right. It's going to exit the configuration menu. And then you just, if you don't like it, you go back and you fine tune it. Then you have the black balance, and this is talking about the black keys. So if it's 1.0, it's going to be, the sensitivity is going to be equal to whatever is that you have at the top. But if you go down maybe to half, 0.5, now the black keys are going to be half sensitive relative to the white keys. And you can go the other way and make it more sensitive. So you're just duplicating whatever is that you're doing right there at the top. And okay, so remember, if you're pressing it and it's not showing up, you need to release and then try again for about 10 seconds. Since the velocity issue now it's out of the way, we can keep moving forward with the other basic functions. So then you have the octave of the control. If you go down, it's going to go down in octaves. Or you can go all the way up. Pretty easy to understand, but you need to know even that if you press both at the same time, it's going to reset back to the center, right? I'm going to go all the way up, and then I press both, and I'm back to the center. Then you have the X and the Y joystick, and it's called X and Y because when you move it horizontally, it's going to be X, and when you move it vertically, it's going to be Y. And notice that on your screen, when you move this, it's going to give you the representation of how much you're going up and how much you're going down with the joystick. Now, usually on the X axis, it's going to be, pitch bend, and then on the Y is going to be modulation. But since this is a joystick, you can do a little bit of both by going like that. Now, you cannot configure this control from the hardware, but you can do a bit with the program editor, the companion app that comes with this device. Now, we will get there in a few minutes. I will show you everything that you can do with the application. Alright, so even this is a MIDI keyboard, the pads are really powerful. I think the pads are the star of the show right here, not the keys. So you have a lot of features. First of all, the pads are going to be sensitive, and they do respond to aftertouch. Maybe you're thinking full level and note repeat will work with the keys. Well, no, full level and note repeat are for the pads. So if I play a pad, and I play it very softly or play it hard, that is that we can hear that sensitivity very easily. Now, if I do full level, the velocity is going to be all the way to 127, even if I play soft, right? So that's going to be the full level. Then you have the note repeat. The note repeat only works with the pads, and is that we get that repeat. So whatever repeat rate is going to be tied to the tempo and the settings of the arpeggiator. We're going to get there in a minute. Now, every time that you press a pad, it will give you a bunch of information about that pad. In this case, since we have aftertouch, I'm going to make pressure. It is going to tell you how much you're doing. But also, it will give you more information. At the top, you can see that it says which pad I'm playing or I'm pressing. Then the note number, because right now we are sending on notes. We are sending note MIDI data, right? And the note 37, 36, 40, and then by default, the pads will send a MIDI note data to the channel number 10. And this is by default. You can change it from the application. Now, all of this information is super important because now you know where you're going or where you can map it inside your DAW. For example, I'm using, a synthesizer from Bitwig. Now I want to use that velocity, right? That pressure, that aftertouch. I can map it to something and then just use it, right? So I'm gonna go here, just map it. And when I make pressure, we are just getting it, right? And that's the only thing that you need to do, of course. Now, when it comes to using the pads, you might think I only have 8 pads. No, you really have 16 because it's going to be 8 on the bank A, but if you press it, it's going to go green. So this means that you're going to go to the next, the next 8 pads. So it's going to be, in this case, I guess it's just pad 1, number 1, then 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then if you press it again, it's going to be, the next 10, 11, 12, 13, so on, 14, 15, and 16. So you have 16 pads in reality. The only thing you need to do is just change the bank. Maybe you're asking yourself, can we change the note value that we have on each pad? Maybe I want to transpose everything that we're doing or to send it to a different place. Can we configure this? Well, yes, you can, but not from the hardware. You need to connect it to, of course, the computer, and you need to use the program editor. And so far, we know that when we press a pad, it's going to be sending data from a note and velocity and aftertouch. But then you have the CC, you have the other buttons that you can see right here. If I enable the CC, when I play something, notice that no sound comes out. It's because now each pad is sending CC values. And the same thing happens when we use CC. If I press this, it's going to tell you right there which pad you're pressing. What is the CC value? In this case, it's 16 by default. And then, 17, then whatever, and so on, and so on, and so on, and so on. And when I press it, it's going to tell you also the value with the pressure, the value that you're actually getting when you press the pad. But the important part right here is that you know which CC is sending data to. And now if I go back to Bitwig, I'm listening for the CC16 and the channel 10. If I play a key, when I press it, it's going to be, I'm sending a modulation to the filter and the resonance. And just like we did before with the pads, when we are sending note data, when you're standing on CC and the channel and the bank number A is going to be 16, 17, all the way to 23. But if you go to the next page, it's going to send from 24 and so on and so on and so on and so on. All of this is customizable from the app. And then after the note data and the CCs, you have the program change, and it works pretty much the same with the pads. So as you can see, the pads are really powerful, a lot more powerful than the keys. Alright, so let's move on to the next big thing on this device, which is going to be the program select. Now then you have this button, the program select. Once you're here, you need to press and hold it. It's not a button just like the other ones. So when you hold it, you need to select the pad, and the pad will load a program for this device. Now, each of the programs are very specific. Some of them are just for DAWs. For example, if I hold it and go to the first one is going to be a GarageBand type of program, an MPC type of program if you have an MPC, then Ableton, and then, so on and so on and so on. And I know you know this, but you also right here have different programs. If I go here, it's going to say chroma pads. This means that whatever note data that we output right here is going to be a chromatic scale. Now, if I keep holding and I go to the next one, it's going to say major pads. So now what it does, you're going to be loading a major scale, which is going to be all the white keys. And by default, I don't remember if I changed it when I was checking this, and maybe I never rolled back. When you're loading this program, it means that again, all of these pads are going to be playing the white keys, right? Now, if I go to the other one, this one is going to be minor pads. So it's going to be a minor scale, which is going to be the same white keys. But the difference is that when you're standing on major, and this is what happens when you get this from factory, it's going to output from a C note. But when you're standing on the minor, it's the same white keys, all the white keys, but you will start from an A, which is going to be the A minor scale. You're always playing the white keys. The difference is where you start, where the root is. And yes, you can create your own scale or even load some default scales from the program. I'm going to show you in a couple of minutes. So like I said before, the pads are really powerful, right? A lot more than the keys. You can do a lot more things. In fact, using the CCs, I could maybe map a CC to my DAW and then just, stop and resume the playback. On some controllers, you do get buttons to do the play, stop, cue, and so on and so on. But again, the CCs, you can configure and map them to whatever you want. You know what? I was not going to do it. I'm going to do it right now. I'm going to stand on CC and I'm going to be sending data to the 16, all right? So now on your DAW, you need to go to your configuration. And this depends on whatever it is that you're using. In my case, it's going to be shortcuts. And if I maybe go to keyboard, I'm standing on controller, I looked for the play or stop transport. When I press this, it's going to ask me to tap it to recognize it. When I do so, it's recognizing the device and the CC values that you can change. And remember that you can create a very specific program that you can load on the fly when you load the program select. So I'm going to say add, and then I'm going to close this. And now if I go to this one, I'm going to tap it and the playback starts. And if I tap it again, it stops and goes back to the beginning. So you can create a very specific program and map it to whatever it is that you want on your DAW, and then maybe go to a different program and keep using maybe the chromatic pads, for example. Okay, so that's the pads. The next thing is going to be the arpeggiator. Okay, so let's start with the arpeggiator. Now, by holding the on and off, you're going to be turning on the arpeggiator, and also by holding the button on the display, you will have a lot of information about the settings that you're using for the arp. Now I'm going to be holding that on and off again from the ARP. Now I'm zooming this screen because it's a very small screen. When you press and hold, it's going to tell you all the information. It says that the ARP is on, and then the BPM is 120. Below you have the time division, then the mode, the latch that it's off, the octave that we can go up in octaves. I'm going to show you in a minute. And then it says the swing. So you have all those features. When you press and hold, you see all the settings. All right, so if I turn it on, I'm going to be playing a chord. It doesn't matter which chord. As soon as you play whatever it is that you want to play, it's just gonna go and do the ARP. And then of course you have a lot of options. You have the latch. As soon as I'm playing, it's going to do the ARP, but as soon as I release, it's going to, dispose the ARP. What you can do, you have two ways of changing the configuration. You can press the on and off, and then notice that at the top of the keys, you have all the different options. You have the latch. Whenever you play this, it's going to let you know, you press it, it's going to let you know that the latch is on. And if I play it, and I release the keys, it's going to latch the keys for me. Now, the other way of turning on and off and changing values is by doing the same motion, holding the on and off, and right here below the knobs, you have the division, swing, mode, octave, and so on and so on. So then you have the latch. If I go all the way down, you're going to turn it off, or you can turn it back on again. Now, once you turn it off, you're going to dispose the notes. So you need to press it again to, to play it. Now, then you have the tempo. So right here, you don't have the tempo, but you have your minus and your plus and minus. So by holding it again, you can change the BPM of the internal clock. I go all the way down, go slow, or I can go all the way up and go much faster. Right, so pretty understandable. Now this takes us to the next topic. What if I want to use it or to match it to an external device? Now you get the tap tempo. If you tap tempo, it's going to match whatever you tap. I guess that's obvious. So okay. So if I want to sync it to something else, you have the sync knob right here. And if you go to sync, when you turn it, it's going to say EXT, external. If you're on a number, it means that you're using BPM, using the internal clock. Sync, external, it means sync. So you will need to go to your DAW or whatever other external device that you're using, recognize the controller, and just, use the other BPM, use the sync. So that's, how it works. All right, so I'm going to be playing a chord, and you have the division. You can change it with this one, or you can do it with the keys. You have, the usual ones. You have the 1/4, the 8/16s, and 32nds. And again, you can press this, and then go to the keys, and maybe I'm going to do triplets, 30 seconds, triplets again, and then go down by pressing the keys. Now still, while you're using this, you can use the knob by still holding the on and off, and change the values with the encoder. Alright, so in this case, I'm going to go to 16s. Alright, so that's going to be the division. Now then you have the swing, which is going to be this control, or you have it right here. I'm going to do the same trick. I'm going to press and hold, and if you want to do 50% swing, you just press it, which is the default. It's 50% default. As I go up, maybe I'm going to go all the way to swing, and we can hear that swing. Now, the main difference with the encoder and the keys is that these ones are fixed values. So if I do the same thing, this one is going to be 64, 61, 59, 57, 55, and 50. But with the encoder, you can fine-tune it, right? So if I go here, it's going to give us all the way down. Of course, it's 50, and I can go in small values, right? So I can go into the in-betweens of the swing. Right. Now then you have the different modes. You have the up, down, exclude, include, and then order. I'm going to do the same thing than before. I'm going to just play something. And by holding this, you can go right here maybe to up, which is the default. We are already there. It's going to play up. The other way is going to be down. Exclude is going to be like an up and down. And include is the same up and down, but is repeating the first and the last notes. And then you have the order. And order is like the as played for, maybe if you know plugins. I'm going to turn it on. I guess I'm doing a latch. I'm going to turn off the latch for now. There we go. Latch is off. And I'm going to turn it on. Right? Not latching anymore. The as played, it means that it's going to remember the order of the keys as you play it. So first it's going to be this one. Then it's going to be this one. Maybe then it's going to be that one. And then this one, and this one. There's no particular order. The order is as played. That's why it's called order. Right? And the other one is that you have the random, which is, as you could guess, is going to be just random. Right. Now remember that you can press and hold and change the different modes with this knob right here. I'm going to turn on the latch, and last but not least is going to be the octave, right? So you can go with the keys 1 octave up, 2, 3, and 4. So if I maybe hold it and then go to 2, he's gonna do it on whatever octave you're playing, and then 1 octave up. And then you have 3, you have 4, and these are very classic arpeggiator type of controls. Right. Now remember that the order, when you use the octaves, is important. If I go down, the order is going to be, pretty much down, up, and then down, because we are going backwards. So yeah, the order matters. All right, so those are the features that you get with the Arpeggiator. Now, besides the arpeggiator, all the different knobs, they work like the CCs that we use with the pads. If I'm not using the arpeggiator, when I move this, it's going to give you an information of what CC it's using, which knob it is. It says K1, then K2, and so on and so on. And it's CC 71, 72, and so on. Is going, by default, the knobs are going to channel number 1. Right? So you can control things with your DAW. Then it says ink and it says DEC. So this is when you go all the way down, you go over 50%, is going to be decreasing or increasing. Now the thing is that the mode, how this works, the different knobs are going to be working on a very specific mode. They're working in absolute mode. And this is because this is an encoder. It's not a knob, right? You don't have a lower point or a higher point. But by default, the main program, the configuration, it's gonna, in this case, Bitwig, it's making this work in an absolute mode. You can't change the configuration from the app from absolute to relative. And this takes us to the next thing, which is going to be the companion app. Everything that we did, we can configure a very specific program and then just load it on your device and just, use those configurations. Alright, so what you have on this device by default is pretty basic. Now the companion app, if you've never used it, is going to expand what you can do with the device. Now, before we start, of course, this is going to be recognizing MIDI. So if you have this keyboard connected to something else, maybe a DAW, you need to disconnect it from the DAW so that you can have the application recognize it. So before we start, you need to know that you have a MIDI monitor. If you go to Tools and you go to MIDI monitor, it's gonna give you this, and this is pretty much what it does. It's gonna let you know what happens when you play a key and all the different values, right? The different messages. This is super useful, especially when you're not using it with a DAW, right? Because you can see what is going on behind the scenes when you move something. Now, the whole application, the whole companion app works on programs. You need to do something with the program, and once you're ready, you send it to your device. So it's pretty much like creating a program and then selecting it with the program select that you have right here. And remember that you have 8, and everything starts right here. It says programs, and you have an S and an R, and you have 8. So S is for send and R is for receive. So if I want to receive to my application the program number 1, I'm going to do R, and it's going to, receive the program, and it says PGM MPC. And if I go maybe to the, number 4 and then receive it, I'm going to say okay, and this one is going to be the FL Studio. Now if I go maybe to, I guess it's going to be the 6, and I receive it, is going to be the chromatic pads, and then we have the minor, and so on and so on. So again, what we can do right here is just change the different values and then send the program back, and this is going to be stored in the local memory of the device. So later, when you configure a program, you do program select, you choose whatever program you stored after you changed it, and there you go. You don't need to do it again. Now then you have an option right here that it says send it to RAM. So whenever you make a change, you send it to the RAM, and the device is going to remember that configuration, but it's going to be temporary. As soon as you turn it off and you turn it back on, it's going to forget about that program, right? So you need to make sure that you save it on file. You can save it on your computer, or you save it on one of the programs. So if you go nuts and you start changing all the values right here, you don't need to worry, because when you go to File and you go to Open Program, it's going to give you right here, you have, all the default programs that you get when you get the device from the factory. So if you messed it up, you can load the default program. And if you create a program and you want to save it, then you go to Save Program. Then at the bottom right here, you have the options, and I'm going to stand on chromatic pads. You know what? I'm going to go to maybe minor. I guess it was this one. Let me just double check. Yes, it's minor pads. That's fine. So when we go to this, at the bottom, you have the different options. What we couldn't do from the device, you can change the pad MIDI channel. By default, they go to 10, but you can select a different channel. You can select how the pads will just react with aftertouch, if it by channel or just polyphonic, or if you want to turn them off. And then you have the keys, which is talking about, the actual keys. By default, they go to channel 1, but, you can, again, change the channel. The other most important parts is the configuration for the paths. You have the bank B, which is, when you go to the B, or when you go to the actual A, which is the actual top. In this case, we are watching all the settings for the minor paths program. Each pad will have a note, right? A value, and this is equal to a note. In this case, it's going to be E3. And notice that right here, the first pad starts with an A, then goes to B, C, D, E, F, G, A. So it's a minor, and it starts on A. Of course, all the white keys. Why? What if you want to change this? Well, you can. You just need to stand on whatever it is that you want to change the note. And then with the arrow keys, or just, with the numeric pad, you just can change the different values and change the note. And you can go to all the different pads, change the notes, and create your own scale. Same thing with the CCs and the program change. You can target very specific CCs, and once you're already doing all of this, you just go to whatever program, you send it, and then, of course, it's going to be stored in your device, and you can use it whenever you want. Now, you cannot argue that maybe doing this manually, it's a pain in the butt. So you have a very special tool. Let's say that I want to create a very specific scale, and I want the application to do it for me. I don't want to do it manually. Well, you get a tool for this. Is the auto populate tool, and you can set scales, CCs, and then program change, and even the knobs. So for example, if I go right here, it's a little bit small because I'm, very far from the screen. But if I want to set a very specific scale, I'm going to check this one. And then when I go right here, it's going to give you a bunch of options. So you have a lot of scales. So maybe I want to make it minor. So I'm going to go to minor, and now it's minor. Now right here, you need to select the root. So maybe I'm going to be selecting, I don't know, a D minor scale. And once you're done, if D minor scale is what you want on that program, you apply it to bank A, you can apply it to bank B, or you can apply it to both, right? So you have the three options. I'm going to apply it to both. Once it's done, if I close this, notice that now the root right here starts on a D, so we have a D minor scale. So if that is what you want, you just send the program and your paths are going to be a D minor scale. Same thing with the CCs. Maybe you want to configure them and you don't want to do it manually. You go to the tool, you go to the auto populate tool, and I want to set up the CC range starting from, I don't know, a number. It could be ascending or descending. So I'm going to start from the number, 25, just to say something. And it's going to be ascending. So if I do apply A and B, it's going to do it for me. And right here, it's going to do 25, 26, 27, so on and so on, all the way up to 36. So it's going to do it for us. And the same thing, and I guess at this point, I don't need to show you, is going to be with the knobs. But, we need to discuss the knobs right now. All right, so before we go to the knobs, I'm going to show you the pitch bend, but this one is pretty easy. By default, on the x-axis, on the x1, we do pitch bend. And when you go up and you go down, what you're doing, you're sending a modulation on a very specific CC. By default, it's going to be the number 1. So right here, you can change that behavior. If I want to change the horizontal axis, I can do pitch bend, or maybe go to a single CC, which is going to be, whatever CC that where you want to go, or maybe you can do a dual CC. Maybe when you go to the right, it's going to be a very specific CC, and when you go to the left, it's going to be a different CC. So you're going to be triggering something else. And of course, all of this depends on, what you want to do, maybe on your DAW, or maybe on your synthesizer, or whatever. The default value is going to be, by default, pitch bend. But the other one, it's a dual CC, is the modulation. It's sending information to the number 1. But you can change it just like the pitch bend, or maybe when you go up, you can go to a different channel, different CC. When you go down, you go to a different one. That's, the whole point of having this. Now, if we go all the way to the knobs, we have the same idea that we have with the pads. Each of the knobs, they can do a CC. You can change it, change the CC right here. Then you have a low and high. So if I go all the way to the bottom, what is going to be the lowest value when I go down, and what is going to be the highest value when I go up on the knob. And then, as we discussed earlier, you have the relative and you have the absolute. If you're standing on relative, it means that it will continue from whatever value you have on that knob. For example, if you're adjusting the volume and you're at 50% on that volume, and you move it up, it's going to go from 50% and up. It doesn't matter where you are. And if you have 50% and you go down, it's going to go down. If you have it on absolute, it doesn't care where you are. It will jump to whatever value and then continue from there. So by default, this is going to be absolute. And it's because not all things, not all DAWs, not everything supports relative values. By default, they do support absolute. You have the transpose, right? So by default, you have no transpose. It's going to be right at 0, but you can transpose by semitones. So if you do this, you're offsetting the keys on the key values on your keyboard. And you can start on a very specific octave when you change to a program. So if I wanted to start, I don't know, offset it by 5, and then when I load the program, I'm going to be 4 up. If that's what you want to do, you can save the programs and send it to your MPK, and off you go, right? That's the idea. So I'm going to go back to defaults. And now the other thing, last but not least, is the arpeggiator settings. By default, when you load a program, you have the default values for the arpeggiator for that program. But if you want to configure how you start with the arpeggiator, you can do it right here. Maybe you can have it on when you go to that program, or change the time division, or have a very specific octave or different values. So all these settings that we have right here, it's cool that we have them on the program, on the app, but this is something that we can easily do from the hardware. Maybe not all of this, but this is something that we can do from the hardware. So having it right here is just like maybe I wouldn't say overkill because you're configuring a program, but you can already do it manually when you just load a program. And the only unique thing on this section is going to be the tempo taps. By default, you need to do 3 taps to detect the tempo, but you can just configure to do less or to do more. All right, so that's it. That's the actual hardware and the application that you get that will expand everything that you can do. And hopefully now you understand your MPK Mini and take full advantage of what you can do with this controller. Now, if you liked all of this and you learned something new, please like and subscribe. This channel is supported by viewers, not brands. So if you want to buy me a coffee and help the channel keep going on, you can. You have links at the description for PayPal, YouTube Thanks, and Patreon. All right, so thanks for watching and see you on the next one.